Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're tackling one of the biggest questions for any digital society student. What is the actual difference between the inquiry project at standard level versus higher level?
Okay, so let's just dive right in. This is such a great question because when you first look at the requirements, everything seems exactly the same. You've got the same rules, the same project parts, the same marking guide. So if the rulebook is identical, what gives? Where's the catch? That's what we're going to get to the bottom of today.
So first up, let's just confirm what we all think we know. When it comes to the official rules for this project, are SL and HL students really playing the exact same game?
And the answer is yes. The guide is super clear on this. The assessment criteria, the word counts, the presentation time, all of those structural things are completely common to both levels. There are no hidden rules on paper. It's a level playing field. At least, that's how it seems at first.
And check this out. 24. That's the magic number. That is the maximum score that everyone is aiming for, whether you're SL or HL. You're both being graded against the exact same rubric, out of 24 points.
Okay, so let's get a little more specific about this common ground. What exactly are these shared requirements? Because this is the foundation that every single project, SL or HL, is built on.
This table just lays it all out, crystal clear. Everyone is being judged on these 5 criteria: inquiry focus, sources, analysis and evaluation, trends, and communication. And you can see the points available for each are totally identical. No tricks here.
And it's not just the marking, it's what you actually have to hand in, the deliverables, right? Everyone submits that 1,500-word inquiry process document and that 10-minute presentation. The box you have to fit your project into is exactly the same size for everybody. So, if all of that is the same, there has to be something else going on.
And this is it. This is where we get to the heart of the matter. If the rules of the game are identical, then the difference has to be in the context and, more importantly, the expectations of how you play that game.
Okay, first big difference, and it's a pretty important one. How much does this project actually count towards your final grade? For SL students, boom, it's a huge 30%. But for HL, it's a bit less, down at 20%. Now that's because HL students have that extra exam, Paper 3, which accounts for that difference.
Now, that difference in weighting makes perfect sense when you see this. We're talking 150 hours for SL versus 240 for HL. That is a massive 90 extra hours of learning. And you've got to know, those hours aren't just filler. You're diving into much more complex topics. So naturally, after all that extra work, the expectation for what you can produce, well, it's just going to be higher.
So let's try to decode what this HL depth really means in practice. It's not something you'll find written down in the criteria, but it's this kind of unwritten rule, this implicit expectation that examiners have because they know you've done all that extra study.
And this quote right here, it just nails it. HL students have to synthesize. That is the key word. They need to connect concepts and contexts with a sophistication that shows they've engaged with their entire broader curriculum. That means pulling in ideas from those HL extension topics, like challenges and interventions. It's about connecting the dots across a much wider landscape.
Let's make this practical. Look at criterion C, analysis. For an HL student, sustained analysis means you can't just describe things. You have to integrate complexity. It's the difference between saying, this source says X, and explaining how source X challenges or supports source Y, weaving them together to build your own powerful conclusion.
And it's the exact same story for criterion D, thorough insight. For an HL student, this means connecting your specific topic to the big picture. You're not just predicting a trend in isolation, you're discussing how that trend intersects with those huge global challenges you've been studying all year.
All right, so with all that in mind, how can you make sure your project hits the mark? Let's turn this into some practical advice. This is a checklist that anyone, SL or HL, can use to really elevate their project from good to great.
Okay, think about it this way. First, don't just list your concepts. Really explain the connections to your real-world example. Second, for your sources, justify them. Tell the examiner why this source was essential. What did it unlock for you? Third, your presentation can't just be a repeat of your written document. It has to synthesize your ideas and offer some fresh analysis. And finally, every single conclusion you make about the future has to be solidly backed up by the evidence you've already presented. This is crucial for everyone, but for HL students, showing real sophistication here is what separates the top marks. So, we'll end on this thought. The rules are the same, but the expectation for depth is what truly separates the levels. As you work on your project, keep asking yourself, how will I not just present information, but truly demonstrate the depth of my learning?